Greetings to one and all. It is Monday, June 24th. In these videos, we're talking about the nature of the times. My name is Timothy Halloran. I am a human being, a mailman of sorts. You can get in touch with me through my website. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. Special thank you to my supporters on Patreon. These videos and my work is made possible by supporters like you. And so for those interested, check out my Patreon page. Now, we're coming into eclipses, and where I very well could say, hold on tight, here we go, I'm going to say instead, let's all take a deep breath. As eclipse periods tend to be powerful periods of change, and this approaching solar eclipse coming up on July 2nd is no exception. This is a powerful eclipse. And these eclipses are going to be initiating the next 6-month cycle, the next 6-month period. So this approaching solar eclipse is a new moon. It will be taking place in the sign of Cancer. And a solar eclipse is somewhat of a super new moon, where a new moon is always the beginning of a new lunar cycle. It is a seed sowing time. This is very much an opportunity to sow seeds in terms of where we can be going in the 6 months to come. And these are the first eclipses in the Cancer Capricorn polarity since 2001. So when we're talking about eclipses, we have these 18-year cycles, and it also has roughly year and a half, 18-month cycles to go through a zodiac sign. So the last set of eclipses in January, February of this year were actually in the signs of Leo and Aquarius. And this next set of eclipses coming up in July 2019 are really going to be initiating this moon's nodal theme of the Cancer Capricorn polarity. It is going to be initiating these themes that will take us through the coming year of 2020. Now, as we said, there can be some similar themes to roughly 18 years ago, 2000, 2001. When we are dealing with the Cancer Capricorn polarity, we are talking about fundamental security. Cancer is inner security, connection to ourself, our feeling of emotional support and emotional safety, whereas Capricorn is outer security, physical providing, the long-term plan, what it is that we're doing in the real world. And this is where there can be so much upheaval, so much transformation, and so much reprioritization going on. Now, this is a powerful eclipse, and this is a feeler eclipse in the water sign of Cancer. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is our emotional body, is our feelings. And this solar eclipse will absolutely be catalyzing a tremendous amount of emotional upheaval, which is really there to be observed as information, which will be inspiring and catalyzing these changes. And at the same time, this process of emotional upheaval is this releasing of the past, letting go what we need to let go of in order to create space for the new to be brought in. And this is generally what eclipses always bring every 6 months. It is this period of restructuring or rearranging the furniture in our lives, in our relationships. And it can therefore be a time of letting go as well as making space for the new. And this is exactly what the moon's nodes represent in astrology. The moon's nodes are simply the points where the moon passes that magical plane of the ecliptic. So whenever we have a new or a full moon aligned with the moon's nodes, this is what causes eclipses. So the moon's nodes has everything to do with the evolutionary passage of time. The moon's north node is the future, what's holding the doorway open to where we're expanding and growing. The moon's south node is the past, the talents and traits we're bringing in from the past, the identities that we've formed, and what we're sick of and feeling limited from the past. also comes from the moon's south node. Well, the point is, whenever we have eclipses, it is this evolutionary tension between the past and the future, and we certainly can be feeling this seesaw going back and forth. We may be feeling old themes that are painful and tired and outgrown and worn down and ready to be let go. And we may be feeling like we're moving to the past or feeling like there's something wrong. I would actually say this is a symptom that the medicine is working, and we'll be talking about this process of embracing our emotions to inform us and rewrite the story of who we are. And the teeter-totter may then swing the other direction, where we're having glimpses of the future, that new identity, that new life, that new relationship that's so exciting, that's so fresh. It's like we've never felt more liberated or more safe in our entire lives. And that seesaw going back and forth, it is the evolutionary mechanism. It is the actual process of healing to clear the space to open to the new. And therefore, we all need to take a very deep breath and relax, as it is like giving birth. The more clenched up, the more anxious we are, the tougher the process of birthing is. There is a need to surrender. There's a need to let go. And indeed, we see Venus in Gemini squaring Neptune today, June 24th. And just this last week, Neptune station retrograde square to Jupiter. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the air. And yet there's also a huge sense that the times are a-changing. Where exactly we're going may not be entirely known, and yet we know that change needs to happen. So this is the clear indication that we are at the beginning stages of a brand new cycle. And oftentimes at the beginning of a new cycle, there's not a total conceptual understanding of what exactly we're going to do or where exactly things are going. And I would say that's okay. Leave the month of July to be the month of self-reflection, emotional processing, going in, coming out, finding the support, having the conversations, and mulling it all over. Because there are many layers, many levels, many dimensions, and we are all complex, multifaceted beings. This is a tremendous period of reprioritization. We are learning how to structure and order our life, and we certainly want and need to give ourselves the time to slow down, tune in, process all of the details, and that requires inner work. Inner processing, in addition to what we're needing to keep up with on the outside. If you're feeling a little more exhausted, a little more tired or weighed down, it is simply the amount of inner work that we're doing at this time, and there is a need to honor that inner work. Give ourselves solid pats on the back. Give us the time, the space, and flexibility to reset, to tune out, to tune in, because we're paying it forward, and this time to process, tune in, and rediscover ourselves can very much pay off at this time. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Let's look at this solar eclipse in Cancer. Now, this eclipse in Cancer is initiating this coming eclipse season. It is a solar eclipse on the moon's north node. So this is a seed sowing time. And this seed sowing is happening through the emotional body, where we feel that freshness, that opening, that rediscovering of who we are, that recommuning with our own inner child. That inner child has an innate sense of divinity for simply being who we are. This is about returning to our own being. This is returning to our own innermost essence. That's the seed sowing. It will come out of a huge amount of desire to get there, a desire to be safe, a desire to be connected, a desire for more space or more slowness, for more grace, for more flow. This is about returning to our divine feminine, which is our inner connection to spirit. That's where the opportunity is. Now that's going to open up this coming lunar cycle, and the following full moon will be the lunar eclipse in Capricorn coming July 16th on the moon's south node. That full moon will more so be bringing up the themes from the past. Societal expectation, obligations, three-dimensional consciousness, the amount of money we have in the bank account, the amount of things that are checked off on our list, and the list is changing. The structures are transforming. The reprioritization is ongoing. And so there is, again, this teeter-totter between inner and outer, how we're feeling, how the outside's responding, the expression of our feelings, how others are responding to that expression in order to do this type of transformation. Now, we really are looking at our emotional body, and there is a tremendous amount of releasing of emotional information which can be happening. This is the number one priority for this coming eclipse season, and I'm saying you want to prioritize this, particularly the month of July. Our inner emotional processing is the number one priority. Our inner emotional processing is leading and spearheading what intentions, endeavors, directions we must initiate to come into new levels of safety, security, and inner connection. Now let's look at this solar eclipse. How is it lining up with the rest of the planets in our solar system? It is opposite to Saturn. It is square to Chiron, square to asteroid Pallas Athena. Okay? So we're really being, again, informed by the stories of the past. Okay? There can be sadness to these stories. There can be heaviness to these stories. We can really be waking up to our unmet needs, or what we don't have that we need. And I'm going to be totally honest here. There are many needs, true core needs, which the whole species of humanity has not been totally aware of. Because in the past, and again, the lunar eclipse in Capricorn will be illuminating the past, these old themes that can become challenges or barriers are the need, the task to survive. And this has been the orientation. It's that dog-eat-dog, fight-to-survive world. Now we call it consumerist capitalistic society, but it's still the dog-eat-dog, fight-to-survive, even though we already have the technology and resources to really already be advanced beyond that stage of evolution, which is really the very first, most primal stage, survival and protection. Well, now our whole human species is waking up to what happens next. And this is largely being informed from the inside out by our own emotional body. We need relationships. We need emotional support. We need safety to be vulnerable with our inner processes. We need souls to be able to hear and meet us where we are at, so we're not simply just bending ourselves all out of shape to meet everybody else where they're at. We have that real sense of family, tribe, connection, to be vulnerable with who we really are. And this can be absolutely one of those needs that our whole human species is waking up to at this time through, honestly, a sense of starvation. Starvation. It's like, I need this and it's not there. I don't feel safe yet and it's not there. And I'm missing this and I'm missing that. And this is not necessarily fun or easy, but it is necessary that we allow these stories through our own emotional body, our own inner child, our own emotional releasing, our own grieving or mourning to take place. This is another area where we have unmet needs. We don't know how to mourn or grieve. in this world. And we're going through this tremendous restructuring at this time. We're going through this recognition that the path that was carved out for us in many respects by our parents or prior generations or our culture or traditions have reached a dead end point. We're at the dead end of contemporary Western civilization as we've known it. We're at the end of the Christian era as we've known it. It's not the end of Christianity or Western civilization. We've reached a dead end in the direction that we've been in the old groove that we've been stuck in. These are situations where our tires have been stuck in the grooves, in the mud, and we're now recognizing that we can't move. We don't feel free. We don't feel liberated. We don't feel safe. That quicksand type of feeling is not a safe feeling. I don't think most people in quicksand have an easy time just breathing and slowing down, which ironically is how we pull ourselves out of quicksand. This is a really suitable analogy and reflection to where we find ourselves at this time, because it can be so easy to want to freak out and grab onto someone or grab onto something. Whatever's out there, please, I'm struggling, I'm sinking. And the more we flail, the more we try to grab onto something outside of us, the quicker we sink. So we have come to a quicksand, dead-end point in our world, and we can also be grieving and mourning the end. That we may not be going to church the same way our parents did, or having the same familiar celebrations, or doing our relationships, or going to work, or earning our money in the same ways that our fathers gave us pats on the back and said, "Good job, you're doing it the right way." We have to let that go. And our inner child is remembering all of the steps along the way, these developmental stages that either we had given to us or either we missed. And it's all being informed from the inside out by our own inner child. I miss this. I don't have this. I need this. And though it may be a painful descent down into these feelings, this is how we release them. As we are releasing these emotions, we're being informed by them. And the stories that our past and our inner child is telling us is to tell us more of who we are. It is the good, the bad, and the ugly of the past that has shaped us into being our unique being. This is our ego, and our ego is not simply an illusion or a problem or an interference. It's a part of our life's unfolding. That ego is having personal experiences through which we are learning and growing. That's no accident. This is a part of the spiritual journey. Evolution happens through emotional processing. Evolution happens through emotional processing, through our ego, our inner emotional experience, our inner child. This is about putting the spotlight on that ego, that inner child, and saying, it's okay. You're allowed to be here. You're allowed to share your story. The whole human species has a story. And this story is our connection to our past richness. And for those of us who are in tune, not with the recent history that we were just taught in schools or watch on the television set, but the long outstanding history of the human species that goes before written language, that goes before our contemporary science's capacity to put all of this together simply using artifacts and tools, we can get to the deeper human history through our souls. We remember deeply. And we are being informed of this deep and human story. And what this story, through our emotional body, is crying out to us is return to yourself. Remember who you are. Remember what it means to be on the planet Earth. Remember what it means to be a human being, because we have become lost. And our contemporary civilizations and religions are lost. And so we're returning to ourselves. We're returning to the Divine Mother. We're returning to what real safe space is, to return to that inner connection with nature, an experiential sense that we are one with the principle of abundance that is this earth, that is this planet. So there is this tremendous collective nostalgia coming up for all of us. It's to our childhood, that sense of innocence, that sense of safety when we were in our mother's womb and we were connected. Well, we can no longer just grab onto our physical mothers anymore. We know this. We've hit the ground. We've grown up. We've come into the world. We've understand the complications of our generational history and generational karma. And this generational karmic pot is now being stirred. And we're seeing the deeper patterns going back through our familiar history, our mothers, our fathers, their mothers and fathers, where they came from, what they dealt with. It's a tremendous amount of seeing these patterns that may have themes of loss, themes of isolation, themes of trauma. This has been what is in between that innate sense to nature that we once had as a species long, long ago. In the Venus of Willendorf days, this was called the matriarchy, which we only know now as a gigantic mystery. How we lived, what we were connected to, but we were connected to something. And that something is returning to us through ourselves. Remember me. And remember everything that's taken place in between. That's what we're waking up to through our emotional body. It's not necessarily painless. This can be a scary time. We can be feeling these fears coming from our own DNA, coming from the traumas of the past. When something like this happened before, it was when we lost everything. And now we're having to remember, have those old tapes, those old reels replay to remember our deeper truth and to hold the necessary space to process the isolation, the pain, the trauma, because in order to change these things, we have to be made aware that they do exist. And we may be therefore mourning or letting go of this ideal, the American dream, the perfect family in suburbia with the dog and the white picket fence, that perfect dream job where we have the respect of our peers and everybody loves us and we pull into our driveway and the door automatically opens. This is the American dream that is painted across billboards and television advertisement, and it's what we all grew up absorbing. Irrelevant of where you live, the American dream has infected the whole world. It is this pathological expectation that is thoroughly unrealistic. And as we are waking up to the fact that it was a deception, we were sold a half-truth. It's not even really possible, given our circumstance, to skip and jump into that perfectly happy family because we bought the Colgate tube of toothpaste. That's what our world and culture, and honestly, we reinforce this together via our family, via our relationships, via our friends. Why aren't you just having a good day? Didn't you go to Planet Fitness? Why isn't your family situation perfect? Didn't you get a raise? And it's not actually like this. We have to stop blaming ourselves for the imperfect world that we came to encounter and change by confronting the imperfections, not by sweeping them under the rug as if it's a problem that our human species did not actually get things perfect. And we may need to be very easy and slow and gentle on ourselves through this process. Yes, it's waking up to the real world. And we're letting go of what may have been, we all grow up thinking Walt Disney is a perfect angelic being. If you know the real life of Disney, you know that he was a master capitalist, that his front was an act to make money. So we're having to really wake up to these little subtle deceptions on many, many different dimensions in our personal lives, in our world, in our work, in our friendships. And though that may be a painful process, do not lose hope. If you feel the great sense of fear or loss or isolation or no safety, you are alive. This is good news for you. You're healthy. If you're not feeling any of these things at this time, you have successfully won the game of desensitization. And that game leaves us zombie-like, lifeless beings. And if we're feeling the pain, the suffering of our Mother Earth, it is a wonderful sign that we are alive and that the medicine is working, because the mother is sending her signals and the birth pangs are waking us up to this process of delivering a whole new way of living our lives and functioning in the world at large. Now, this sensitivity is absolutely the be-all, end-all key. And this North Node solar eclipse, this seed-sowing time, is saying, re-invite your own sensitivity back into yourself. And this is a healing process for all of us, because we have all grown up in this world that encourages sensitive people to desensitize. That is the result of the dog-eat-dog, now consumerist capitalistic society in which we all live. We have to keep up with these standards that are fast, earn more, make more, climb the ladder. And this means tune out of your sensitivity, suppress your emotions. Everybody asks, how you doing today? And nobody actually wants to know how you're actually feeling. This is what we're waking up to at this time. You asked, and I told you how I'm feeling, and it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on now, where's that smile? You know, that old patriarchal term that is what we are no longer allowing. It's no longer okay. The oppression, the prejudice, the misogyny in these little subtle things. Shutting down the emotional body is a prejudice against the divine feminine, which is inherent in men or women. We used to call them lunatics. Those souls that were so sensitive they did not have a degree of control over their own emotional body, aka highly sensitive souls. Probably very sensitive to the people surrounding environmental factors, and then historically, traditionally, they were told, no, the problem is you. We're all having allergic reactions right now. It's not fun. No one says, oh yay, I love puking and blowing my nose all summer long. The allergic reaction is informing us of what needs to go, what needs to change. And it's a soul level allergic reaction. Our sensitivity is informing us, even those negative feelings. And this can be very challenging, because this is where our world doesn't say, yeah, be sensitive, yeah, process those feelings, yes, be angry, yes, be emotional. This is where the whole game is changing for us to be a healthier person in a healthier world, by honoring our sensitivity and redefining the things that get in the way of it. We used to say that strength was our capacity to shove our emotions down. Oh, I self-sacrifice my whole life. I give all of my goods to everybody else. I'm suffering immensely on the inside. I'm isolated. I have no friends, but I take care of everybody else. I'm having a good day. That used to be success. And we're all dying. We're all waking up from this. Oh my God, I'm diving. I'm starving. I can no longer do this. Success is being redefined as vulnerability. Somebody asks you how your day's going. You say, it's the worst day I've ever had in my entire life. Everything is going down the drain. If that person who asked you said, whoa, that's too much, that's their problem, not yours. You being vulnerable about your human experience is stepping up to the plate. It's being strong. It's being mature. It's being willing to do the real work rather than bypass and go to superficial, bullshit, avoidant, distracting world. Everybody else says, come on, just watch the Kardashians and be happy when they're miserable. Us being vulnerable is us embodying the medicine, even if we have to be vulnerable about things that are not positive. The New Age movement is not a master at helping us do this emotional processing. Those who are familiar with my work know that I call the New Age movement out on this. Spiritual bypassing is all pervasive. Be positive. Yoga your way through it. Change those emotions by pushing your way through is bullshit. It's oppressive, it's offensive, it is crippling us as a species. Grabbing onto something outside of ourselves to process emotions is bypassing our own emotional processing. We cannot do it that way. Now, the reason this becomes tricky is via this sensitivity, the inner child starts to play these reels, these stories. I have been belittled, I've been isolated, I've been ignored, I still feel ignored, I still don't feel happy. Valid. That's the point. We're saying these emotions are valid. You can tell your story, you can share your truth, and you deserve support in sharing this story and truth, even if it's negative. And this is a part of the changing of relationships, the reprioritization, etc. And at the same exact time, when we're feeling sensitive and we're having this inner subjective, personal, emotional experience, it is just all too easy to project or to become defensive or to become attached. Like, I don't feel safe in myself. Save me. Save me. I don't feel safe. I need you to be my foundation. Or I don't feel safe and you're not making me feel safe, and so you don't make me feel safe. And you haven't been taking care of me. And where's my mom? And where's my dad? And the point is, this emotional expression is valid. We don't want to shut that down. We're not looking to our partners while we're having these triggers, which we will have, and while we're having these expressions, which we will have, and we'll take turns, and the teeter-totter will go back and forth. We don't want to shame one another. Like, oh, you're being such a baby, and shut the hell up, you're complaining too much. This is the end of that patriarchal oppression. The oppression of the woman and the child are complaining too much and just have to grow up. That is the wound in many respects. That is the trauma. That is the oppression. That is what disconnects us from the Divine Mother, from our connection to ourselves. That's what we're deconditioning in ourselves. Yay! Saturn conjunct Pluto. Changing the game. Changing the rules of the game. It's all changing. And so we have to be able to hold space for our inner child to emote, to tell this valid story without becoming 100% absorbed into it, in which case we become a victim, other people become attackers, we get into blame, we burn bridges, so on and so forth, and then we end up being more hurt, more crippled. I mean, this is a time where we just have to invite each other into our shadows, into our wounds, through being vulnerable rather than running or avoiding or shutting down. You hurt me in the past, so now you don't exist in my reality, is how we defensively respond to our emotions. But when we respond in this defensive, instinctual, shut down, avoid, blame, cut out type of way, we end up hurting ourselves more. We end up having so many regrets. We look out there in the world where we see so many relationships that have just abruptly ended traumatically, with closed hearts and mean words and pointed fingers and accusations, and that's not healthy. It's not healthy that we expect each other to remain together out of this societal imprisonment of marriage, death do us apart, even if we're abusive and miserable. That's not healthy. And it's not healthy for us to just burn bridges and slap each other in the face and leave. So we have to hold space for our inner child to express our feelings and then communicate them. And here we want to do our mailbox system, write your letters, come back to the letter and review it before you actually send it. That way, it's respecting your needs. You're asking for what you need and what you want and what you deeply desire in a way that can actually be received. And we need to communicate our needs in a way that can actually be received in order to improve our lives. To not just burn the bridges and be isolated and alone and feel tremendously unsafe. We need support. Get your counseling. My God, everybody get a therapist. This stigma against therapy or modern psychiatric stuff, don't just prematurely sign up for pharmaceutical drugs. Yes, they're incredibly overprescribed, but we need therapists, we need counselors, we need safe space, we need talk therapy is what we need. We need to be able to approach these emotions in a place where we can open up. The key is vulnerability. Venus is forming a square to Chiron this whole next week, and will be exactly square next Monday, July 8th. This is where these defense mechanisms can lead to the coldness, the harshness, the shutting ourselves down and separation. The key is the exposure therapy of going into the painful areas, opening up our heart and being vulnerable is the healing medicine. And this can be a period of healing our hearts, healing our connections to others so we can feel safe to be ourselves and we can be supported in constructing the world that we want to live in. This is the relationship between Cancer and Capricorn. And the real healing, the real mastery of this polarity being integrated together is the balancing and the communion of our own inner child and our own inner parent. This process of reparenting ourselves, I would say, is the summary theme of this eclipse season that again is going to initiate the cycles through the coming year of 2020. Now, this balancing of how to approach our emotions, how to honor them, this is tricky business. We all need information, help, support. And so, and again, this is where our world is not totally informed. This is where we are learning to step into new teachings and new ways of honoring our own emotions. One of the ways we can approach this is through astrology. The moon comes full circle every month. The moon is the fastest moving planet in relation to the earth, and it reflects our emotional body. So I have a moon workshop, which I'm going to bring down to like 50%. It's going to be like $12 or something. Really affordable, but you get a 2-hour video, a worksheet, and tools to track the moon, to track your own emotional responses. That's information you can take and start applying to your life now. And so this can be valuable, useful tools in medicine, and also the support that we need. We need the sense of support to share our experiences, to open up, and to get a sense of guidance and community that we're in this together. We're not alone. Even though this can be scary, even though this can be depressing, we are here for each other. And so I am very excited and privileged to be offering an opportunity to connect with myself, Christina Caudell, Sol, Arimosha, and Kaipacha for an Eclipse Circle, where we're going to be joining together. We'll be having a weekly sharing. You'll be getting videos and audios from myself and the other astrologers. And it's largely about doing the inner work, the emotional support, and having an understanding of how to do this reparenting in ourselves. So if you're interested in this graduate's course to the current eclipse season, please feel free to check out our Eclipse Circle. And if you feel the call, if you feel the need, please do sign up. And if you don't feel the call or don't feel the need, don't worry. Your call and your need may be bringing you to different circles, different groups. The point is that we're following the call if it's there, because it is the time to be making the call. If we're not taking the call, it's time to tune into and find our soul family. Those groups of people that support us into stepping into ourselves. Now is the time. It's no longer getting put on the back burner. This is the time to return to ourselves. So this reparenting homework, I'm going to prescribe to all of us, and I've been prescribing to many of my clients throughout many months, and this is the initiation. This is the initiation into the teachers, the leaders, the new mothers, the new healers. They are being woken up at this time. This new moon solar eclipse square to Chiron, it is awakening the spiritual warriors. Chiron is in Aries. We have to stand up, protect ourselves for who we are as individuals, honor our individual sensitivity by being the warrior that is protecting and asserting our own uniqueness, our own unique sensitivities, our own unique processes. And we can do this by forming a relationship between our own inner parent, Capricorn. Dad giving us pats on the back, saying, I'm proud of you. You give yourself those pats on the back. My God, we all deserve it at this time, and we may not be getting enough of it from the outside. You give yourself some solid pats on the back. You deserve to recognize yourself for all the great work that you're doing. So you're giving yourself pats on the back. You're saying good job. You're saying I'm proud of you as your own inner parent to your own inner child. And the inner child is emoting. releasing so many old stories, so many old feelings. And here's where we have the opportunity to go in as the mother for our own inner child. And the mother is saying, child, I don't care if you're crying. You're crying. It's okay. You're safe to cry. You're safe to be depressed right now. My God, you're depressed right now. It's a wonderful sign of you being alive. You're being informed by me, your mother. You're safe to feel. Whether you're angry and shaking your fists at God, go ahead. Shake your fists at God. You have a good reason to be angry. You have a good reason to feel betrayed. If you're feeling like you're so excited you can't settle down and you're bouncing off the walls and no one can understand you, it's okay. Be free, my child. Be liberated. Fly your freak flag. As our inner child is emotionally releasing, it's a trail of breadcrumbs in which we are following inside. And it may lead us back to particular past experiences. Maybe it's an experience we had with our nuclear family. Maybe it's a time our physical father gave us a slap on the wrist, or a mean teacher came down on us and said, you need to grow up. Pull your head out of the clouds. You've got a job to do. You've got bills to pay. And as our inner child is taking us back to the past, releasing these feelings, this trail of breadcrumbs we're following in, again, we go in as our own inner parent, and we have the opportunity now to rewrite the story. My child, you're safe to express what you're feeling. They just don't understand. They're in a different world. They're just trying to protect you, and this is the best they know how. And, their parents traumatized them. And so you're safe to be yourself. They don't understand. And by going back to the past, we're rewriting the story through our emotional processing. This is real magic. This is real healing. And it's happening full speed ahead. So your homework is going to be taking nice long baths, making your bed into a little womb where you can retreat to. Make a corner of your room the pillow fort, and retreat inside of yourselves. Make your environment as safe feeling. Push the limit of just how much physical pleasure can you contain in your body. And that will allow ourselves to emotionally process and release what we need to. Now again, this is where our world, society, culture, traditions tend to get in the way. We don't feel good. We don't want to go into work. Boss says, you got to pay the bills. You got to go into work. This is where we have a tendency to get in our own way. So here's a little way to discern. If we are in a physically safe environment to process emotions, we will have emotions to process. Even if we don't feel safe, even if we feel alone or isolated or that everything's getting lost, if we're having those emotional feelings, it means we're already in a safe environment. When we're out in the middle of the mountain in the dead of winter trying to survive, when we're being chased by a tiger, we don't have emotional releases. The fight or flight kicks in. Adrenaline kicks in. That total objectification kicks in, and we're surviving. So if we're having any emotions at all, it's probably a good sign that we're actually already safe. So make that pillow fort. Take that bath. Give yourself that time, even if it doesn't feel good. You're paying it forward. It's a symptom that the medicine is working, and it's all going to pay off as we return to what that inner child is informing us from the inside out of, which is the deeper story and truth of our own soul. Through this inner emotional processing, being the parent to our own inner child, this can also be a part of the healing process to help discern, is this real security? Am I feeling connected? Am I safe and spacious and free in myself? Or is this something I'm clinging onto because it seems like this outer thing is giving me security? Or am I dependent on this thing that seems to give security, where this clinginess and this dependency actually creates more insecurity? So this is a part of the discernment. Does this make us feel safe? Or are we relying on something that's actually making us feel less safe? Because now we're dependent on something outside of ourselves, and now we got to build the fortress and nail it down and make everything all imprisoned and all blocky and all squared. Again, we merely look out in modern day human civilization and we see that that's how everything is. It's all clung on to, guaranteed, nailed down, boxed in, imprisoned, and is it therefore actually secure? Is it actually guaranteeing longevity and spaciousness? So this inner parenting is to allow us to come to real security and connection in ways that are truly safe, that are not dependent on things outside of ourselves, but are creating new standards for safety, new standards for our relationship, so that way we can come into new standards of trust, new standards of stability by eliminating any of these dependencies, any of this clinginess, or any of this deception that's not real security, but just sells itself as being that way. And here in America, we deal with these things all the time, whether it be the car salesman, the person knocking on our door, the emails we receive every day requires this type of discernment. Does this look like security? Does this look good? For example, making our parents proud while we're children is usually what we are trained and reinforced even to do. And then as we learn about our parents, their history, and all of the hidden stuff comes out, it's like, do we really want to live up to those expectations? What in those expectations are reflecting what we desire and who we truly are? And where are those expectations just becoming this invisible boulder that we're carrying over our own shoulders and holding against ourselves? Give yourself the whole month of July to process. There's so much going on in our world, on the outside, and it's all just foreshadowing the big changes going on in our world the next few years. So it's like, okay, what's going on? What are we dealing with? But this can bring us to those safe spaces, those safe connections that are relevant of what's going on in the big mass world out there. We know what's going on for us, and we've got that sense of future momentum and direction and opening happening. So a lot to process, and Mercury is stationing retrograde to help us with this inner processing, this inner discerning, going back to the past, looking at old friendships, looking at past relationships. It's all going on this month of July. Mercury enters Leo this week, June 26th. Stations retrograde at 4 degrees of Leo on July 7th. That Mercury is stationing with Mars and Juno and can be holding open the light at the end of the tunnel as well. Excitement for the new, fresh new creative possibilities. We're celebrating how we can live our life. We're celebrating what we can do in our relationships. So there's new friendships, new possibilities, new lovers, new activities on the horizon. And this Mercury retrograde can be foreshadowing and introducing that, but then moves retrograde back into Cancer. Okay, we want to get there, more to process. And that Mercury moves back into Cancer July 19th and then stations direct 23 degrees Cancer on July 25th. Okay, and that Mercury will station direct opposite to Pluto. So there's this deep critical reflection, deep processing. How do we get the best of both worlds? And the best of both these worlds, Cancer, Capricorn. How can we get the best of Cancer? Self-fulfillment, emotional fulfillment by what we're doing, safe feeling friendships, a sense of connection to a tribe, the necessary time to slow down and process, the space that we need to tune in and be with ourselves, that connection to our own inner child, our own divine mother, our own inner self with a capital S. That's one world. Capricorn, how do we be safe in the outer world? How do we have security in our relationship? What's the long-term plan? What's that work in progress? What is that project? We are waking up to our capacity to build the life that we want to, and that we can function in the world without losing ourselves to it. So being in communion with ourself, emotionally fulfilled, and having our feet in the world without being lost in it, that is the best of both worlds. That is the win-win solution. It is the light at the end of the tunnel, and that is why there's so much work, so much healing, so much processing at this time. Do not be afraid, my friends. Do not be swept off your feet. If you feel a little heavy or depressed, celebrate your depression as being a wonderful symptom that you are alive, that the medicine is working, that something has grown old and we're loosening our connection to it to clear open the space for something new to be discovered. But we're just initiating this discovery, my friends, and so I am absolutely wishing you the best in it. For those of you who could use the tools of the moon, this month of July is Cancer, the moon's month. Get that 50% discount on the moon workshop, or join our Eclipse Circle if you're interested in more personal support, if you want to get more of that sense of tribe, if you're feeling alienated, if you're feeling more alone. The helpers are out there. The others are out there. Your tribe, your soul family is out there. So if you have not heard the call, make the call, because now is the time. Again, wishing you absolutely all the best, and please do remember always to take care. That was a butterfly. That was beautiful.